I was up in the attic this week, looking for absolutely nothing in particular, which is exactly how you end up finding everything. And there it was, old beret, set of dog tags, a rank slide I have not looked at in years. And, unfortunately, a fully operational set of memories. I don't know which one my wife wanted buried up there more. 26 years in this man's army, and somewhere in that time, somebody, nobody knows who, everybody claims they wrote it, sat down and documented every single thing that can go wrong in a military operation. They called it Murphy's Laws of Combat. I'd like to state for the record that I personally field tested a great many of these. Not on purpose. Nobody field tests these on purpose. That is, in fact, the entire point. So, grab a coffee, or in my case, grab absolutely nothing, because my hands are already full of a beret and some very old feelings. Let's go through a few of these. Law number 1. Friendly fire isn't. Which is a very polite, very official way of saying your own side will absolutely put rounds near your head and then act personally offended when you mention it afterward. I was on a live fire range as a young officer, standing exactly where the range card said I was allowed to stand, and a burst went so close overhead I felt my beret consider a career change. I turned around. The soldier responsible looked at me with the sincere, wide-eyed innocence of a man who had simply misjudged an azimuth by a very generous amount. "Sorry, sir." "Sorry, sir." 2 words. Does absolutely nothing for the ringing in your ears, but it is, apparently, all you're entitled to. Law 10. Never share a foxhole with anyone braver than yourself. I had a foxhole partner once. I will not use his real name, because he is now, terrifyingly, a bank manager, who treated incoming fire the way other men treat light drizzle, mild inconvenience, nothing to adjust the schedule for. Meanwhile, I am down in the mud, doing an excellent impression of a man trying to become part of the Earth's crust, and he's up there taking notes like it's a documentary. Law 11, right underneath it, says never go to bed, or in our case, never share a tent with anyone crazier than yourself either. I broke both rules with the same man, in the same week. I do not recommend it. I also would not trade it for anything, but that's a separate section, and we are not there yet. Law 12, never forget that your weapon was made by the lowest bidder. I would like the record to show that I once had a piece of kit fail so spectacularly and at such a specific, dramatic moment that a full colonel personally came over to look at it. Not to help, just to look. The way you look at a car crash. He asked what happened. I said, "Lowest bidder, sir." He nodded, like a man who had heard that sentence in every army, in every country, since the invention of the committee. Some truths are universal. Procurement is one of them. Law 13. If your attack is going really well, it's an ambush. I want you to understand, in the army, if things are going smoothly, you don't relax. You get more nervous. Smooth is suspicious. Smooth means something is about to happen to you specifically. We once advanced through an exercise objective so cleanly, so effortlessly, that my platoon sergeant, a man who did not smile recreationally, turned to me and said, very quietly, "Sir, I don't like this." He was right. He was always right. 30 seconds later, the entire opposing force appeared from a tree line that, according to the map, did not contain an entire opposing force. Maps. We'll get to maps. Law 16. No O-plan ever survives initial contact. Law 21. Right after it. The important things are always simple, and the simple are always hard. We would spend days building a plan with more arrows on it than a weather forecast. Phase lines, timings down to the minute, beautiful, a work of art. And then the operation would start, and within about 4 minutes, the entire beautiful plan would be replaced by its far more accurate cousin, everyone doing their best. Everyone doing their best has won more objectives than any O-plan I ever wrote. I will not be putting that in an official report, but it's true. Law 63. The most dangerous thing in the world is a second lieutenant with a map and a compass. I was once, personally, a second lieutenant, with a map and a compass. I would like to tell you I was the exception. I was not the exception. I once led a full section confidently and enthusiastically in a direction that was, and I want to be precise here, entirely wrong, for long enough that the sergeant behind me finally said, "Sir, respectfully, that's not north, that's the officers' mess." It was, in fact, the officers' mess. We had walked in a very confident circle. 26 years later, I have a much better sense of direction. I still would not bet my life on it. Neither would anyone who has ever served under me. Law 96. Don't ever be the first, don't ever be the last, and don't ever volunteer to do anything. I learned this one on day 4. Someone asked, "Any volunteers?" And, being new and enthusiastic, and not yet broken in, I raised my hand. That is how I ended up painting rocks. White, in a straight line. For aesthetic purposes that were never, at any point, explained to me. A related law, further down the list, never tell the platoon sergeant you have nothing to do. I made that mistake exactly once as well. I will not be elaborating on what something to do turned out to mean. Some wounds don't need reopening. This one involves a latrine. And then, my personal favorite, the law of beer math. 2 beers times 37 men equals 49 cases. I do not know which unit quartermaster first proved this theorem. I only know that it is correct. It has never once failed to be correct, and it appears to violate several laws of arithmetic that I otherwise fully respect. Somehow, the same logic applied to the body count report at the same headquarters. 3 confirmed, 1 probable, and by the time it reached the brigade briefing, it had acquired 2 sheeps and grown into 37. Numbers do very strange things once they leave the front and meet a briefing slide. Here's the part I actually mean. Underneath every one of those laws, the mud, the wrong azimuth, the rocks I painted white for no reason, is something that isn't a joke at all. It's the men. It's always the men. The braver foxhole partner, the sergeant who was always right, the section that followed a lost lieutenant into a very confident wrong direction and never once made him feel small for it. Not really. Not where it counted. I have not painted a single white rock since I retired. I have not missed painting them either. But I would paint every rock on that entire base again, gladly, badly, in the rain, if it meant one more evening in that tent with that particular set of idiots I was lucky enough to serve beside. That part, they never wrote a law for. Murphy covered the rifles, the radios, the weather, the maps. Murphy never once wrote a law for what it's like to genuinely love the people standing next to you in the worst places on earth. I suspect that's because it's the one thing that never went wrong. So, for what it's worth, and after 26 years, it's worth a reasonable amount. Here is the actual list. Do trust the quiet sergeant over the confident lieutenant. That lieutenant, incidentally, was me. Do assume the plan will not survive contact and build people who can think anyway. That part never fails. Do treat "this is going too smoothly" as useful information, not good luck. Don't volunteer for anything before you know what anything means. Ask me about the rocks. Don't trust a piece of kit just because it passed inspection. Inspection and combat are not the same exam. Don't ever, under any circumstances, tell a platoon sergeant you have nothing to do. So, was the army great? No. Genuinely, often, no. Was it terrible? Also no, technically, according to the same version of me who keeps romanticizing a latrine detail from 30 years ago. It was somewhere in the middle, same as most things, same as most of us who did it. I'm putting the beret back in the box now. Dog tags too. The memories, those I think I'll leave out for a while longer. Murphy was a grunt. And somewhere, right now, a second lieutenant is reading a map upside down with complete confidence. God help him. Oh, and before you go, one more field-tested truth, free of charge, which, frankly, is rare for the Army. Hit the like button. It costs nothing, doesn't require a form in triplicate, doesn't need to be signed off by a colonel who will ask you 3 questions he already knows the answers to. And subscribe. It won't get you a foxhole partner braver than yourself, and it certainly won't get those rocks painted, but it is, without question, the best run operation on this entire channel. And I say that as a man who once led a confident circle around the officer's mess. So, go on, fall in, subscribe.